You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. Today is October 18th, 2021. Well, if you've been listening to this show for any amount of time, you know that we are always fixated upon inflation, and not that CPI number, but the real number, which potentially is way, way higher. I don't think anybody can dispute that. And well, question is, will your retirement keep up with inflation? Because if you're in the wrong thing, even if you are earning a halfway decent return, it's still going to lag inflation and you're still going to have problems. So with us, noted financial expert Jim Sloan, and you find him at Jim Sloan, SLOAN.com. And he likes to say, live life on your terms. So in an inflationary environment, Jim, how do you live life on your terms?
Well, thank you, Kerry, for inviting me to speak today. And I think the easiest answer to that's going to be become informed, learn what you don't know. And then also make major financial decisions based on, relevant facts and the math and logic, as opposed to opinions or missing information or something that your aunt said or your uncle said or something you read in an article. Have some facts, get the math on the table, and then things become a lot easier.
All right. So, they're talking 5-6%. Potentially it could go higher. We don't know. Certain things like, have you filled up your tank with gasoline lately, Jim?
I have, depending on what state you're in. California, it's like $4.50 a gallon. Here in Texas, it's closer to $3.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, it depends on what gas station you go to. The other day, I get off the highway and my car takes premium. They recommend it. And I saw it was like over $4 a gallon here in Florida. And I said, yeah, I'm filling it up with regular. And the car can run on regular. Obviously, it's not quite as fast. It definitely doesn't run as well, but you can do it. And, that was up from under $2 like a year and a half ago. And that's just typical. Natural gas prices up 130% at one point. Now they're down to just 100%. But even you go to that certain undisclosed coffee shop, and their coffee is 25% higher than a year ago. So, it's all well and good if you're making income and your income's keeping up. If you're one of the rare people where your income is keeping up with the rate of inflation, more power to you. But so many of you are out there aren't. How do you structure your retirement to prosper in all eras?
Well, Kerry, I think it's important for everyone, I believe, to understand that we are seeing higher inflation than we have seen in the past decade or so. In fact, the next era, the next 10 or so years, we could easily see higher inflation. But I'm not really seeing or agreeing with too many that say, oh, Jim, there's hyperinflation coming and there's going to double digits. Well, where are you getting that information at? Because what we're thinking is that it's going to remain, around 5% or so in most advanced economies. And the reason is because, the U.S. monetary policy could, remain very accommodative in the next few years. We have, also have the economic growth that remains healthy. And we also expect to see the supply constraints ease up at some point. So again, we are going to have higher inflation. We're already seeing it today, but it doesn't mean that we're having hyperinflation. People need to start panicking and trying to figure out things that they don't really need to figure out.
All right. So no hyperinflation, but still 5-10%. If we go to inflation like it was in the 70s, just say we're going to get lucky and we'll keep it to that. That is still quite high, isn't it?
There is no doubt about that. And you have to plan accordingly. And I will say that I've been preaching as often as I can. And I teach adult financial education classes at local colleges here in the Houston area. And I've been teaching this for a while now. And that is the old model, the traditional models that we have had in the past, where the financial institutions and financial magazines and talk radio, et cetera, basically say, hey, as you get closer to retirement, now you want to pull back on your risk, or another term that we like to use is you want to de-risk your portfolio. And by doing that, I think the common folk would think that, okay, well, we're just going to go more into fixed income or bonds or something like that. And that's typically has worked in the past. But Kerry, that model is broke today. It will not work. And that's something that I would say is one of the biggest factors of helping folks overcome this higher inflation, because you don't want 40, 50% of your assets in the market growing really nicely, and you have the other 60 or 50 or 40% in fixed income earning 1.5%. Well, that's going to hurt you easily, as you can see by inflation, and then having half your assets earning less than 2%.
All right. So what do you do here? Like, what investments out there besides the stock market can possibly keep up with inflation?
Well, that's interesting. And I will tell you, I read a lot of articles. I read a lot of what's going on out there, some of the opinions that are being shared. And I see most advisors are basically saying, hey, let's just stay in the market, but let's go with preferred stock, or let's do something a little different, maybe dividend paying stocks. And when I'm reading those articles, I'm thinking, wait, that's still market risk. And when the market goes down, the market goes downward or has a correction or at some point a crash, all of those assets are going to go south. And if you're retiring and you're needing that income, that's going to create panic. That's going to create emotional sell-offs and all kinds of things like that. So that's a long-winded way of me saying that we have to look at other asset classes. And one of our favorites right now, Kerry, are going to be fixed annuities, two different types. One of them is called a multi-year guarantee annuity, where basically today you can guarantee 3% a year. Well, that don't sound exciting, but it's certainly double what a 10-year treasuries can yield today, and it's certainly higher than a 30-year 2% bond. So that's 3%. And then the second annuity would be an index annuity. And basically it gives you protection. You got a floor under your feet. And also we're looking at about 5% on average. One year you could get 0, the next year you could get 9, the next year you get 4. But again, on average, 5% is what we're after. So that seems to work in many cases or instances that we see today.
All right. So what about this concept of insurance policies out here that are paying, especially in mutual companies, they pay you a dividend in terms of the profit they make because the policyholders actually own the company. And plus you get your guaranteed rate of return that could be somewhere 3 to 4%, right?
Well, you're talking about life insurance now, and that's a different animal. And I don't know if too many people would want to plan their income based on a life insurance policy, because that's an entirely risky and potential big problems that people can face. And since we're at that part in our discussion, I have seen just in the last couple of months, several new clients to our firm come in here, and they have these whole life policies or these mutual trust policies that are paying the dividends and everything looks right. And they're told that, hey, you put money in, you leave it alone for 10 years and you can take income out tax free and, and so forth. And that sounds great. That's the sizzle. But as I look at these policies, almost every one of them are unfunded. They're not funded properly. They're not designed properly, and they have the potential to be blowing up in the future because, and I tell them, I say, the insurance company is going to be sending you a letter in about 10 years, 8 years, 12 years. Why? When you're in retirement saying, look, we need more money into this policy unless it's going to lapse on you.
Right. Okay. So no insurance. And so you just settle for a 3% return and you have a real effectively a negative interest rate, a real negative interest rate, don't you?
Well, we're not saying that you settle for 3%. And I mentioned the 3% because I said it's real easy to beat the pants off of treasuries today and a fixed guaranteed insurance product. But what we typically use is the index annuity because it gives the client the greater potential to earn that, 5% or so on average is what we're thinking. So again, there's no one size fits all answer, but I could say that I certainly don't have a single client today that we have half of their assets or 40% of their assets in fixed income earning almost nothing, because that is truly losing purchasing power. And remember, the other portion is invested in the market. Okay. So you have 50, 60% of your portfolio in the market, and you have the other 40% or so, earning let's call it 5% or so. So that's a pretty strong income portfolio in 2021.
What about dividend stocks? When you look at consumer stocks like your P&Gs, your J&Js, stuff that people have to buy no matter what, and they pay a decent dividend. Is there a strategy to be had there, Jim?
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Osino Resources is a Ross Beatty-backed gold exploration company in mining-friendly Namibia. Osino's district-scale land package is situated near 2 producing gold mines, one of which Osino's management team previously developed and sold to B2 Gold. Osino's founders and management are experienced mining professionals who have already successfully developed and sold 2 companies in the past 7 years. Osino has a tight share structure, and with its current treasury, it can self-fund the advancement of its gold discovery into at least 2022. This is an exploration company with drills turning that you'll definitely want to pay attention to. Osino trades in New York under the ticker OSIIF and in Toronto under the ticker OSI. To learn more, go to osinoresources.com. That's osinoresources.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
I don't know if it's a strategy per se, but I would certainly, Kerry, say that would be the types of stocks that you could have in that portion that's in the market that is taking market risk, because we know that the market's going to fluctuate up and down, and that's okay. We know the dividends are going to be paid. That's great. But we just don't want to touch the actual principal or the investment for at least, let's call it 7 to 10 years from now. We want to solve for income using those dividends if we need to, but not the principal, regardless of what it falls to, or if it drops 20% or 30%.
Hey, one thing we should talk about this year, the first time in a long time, Social Security benefits are actually going up. 5.5%, I think, was the number I heard bandied about by the Treasury.
That is, the first time in 40 years we've seen anything like that. And that's great for those today, Kerry, that are receiving Social Security. However, I think the bigger part, the biggest mistake I see when I'm visiting with prospective clients and people that come in from my class and different areas is that they don't really know when to begin Social Security, the proper age, the optimal age for them. For example, did you know that a widow or widower can begin reduced benefits at as early as age 60? A surviving spouse, if they're disabled, can begin reduced benefits at age 50. A divorced spouse that remains unmarried can begin reduced benefits on the ex-spouse's record at age 60. Everyone else can begin as early as 62 or as late as 70. So what I'm saying is, when is the optimal age for someone to begin? And it's real easy for us to determine that. And that is, okay, Mrs. Jones and Mr. Jones, you're going to start at age 65. And then what's that going to look like? And then we run a separate scenario. What if we waited 2 years? What does that look like? And in many times, Kerry, we actually can increase the client's lifetime net worth by, $100,000, $150,000, just by making that right decision. So the increase for cost of living is great for our parents, but it's not. That's this year. So what's going to happen next year and beyond? But I think the most important piece of Social Security is running the math and make sure that you are starting, your Social Security in your situation the best way possible. And my latest book that I wrote earlier this year, it's out on jimsloan.com. If anybody wants to go out there, they can just, it's a copy for free out there. And then I write a chapter in there about this. I think that would be some additional information for your listeners. It would be helpful.
All right. Well, you're giving us a lot to think about here, Jim. You personally, looks like we're close to similar age. What are you personally doing for retirement?
Well, I am knowledgeable about index universal life policies, and I frankly, that's basically what I invest in primarily is index universal life. I've had my policies over, let's call it 15 years or so, and I don't know, I've averaged close to 6.5% over 14, 15 years. And of course, I know it's growing on a tax deferred basis. I can access it tax free. And if I walk out on life early, then it's going to all be paid out tax free. So I'm a tax free investing guy, but that's for me. I have some clients that have IULs, index universal lives, but also most are split with the market and maybe an index annuity in that regard. But for me, index universal life, it takes care of what I'm looking for. Because if I can grow my money safely, tax free, and link the interest to the market with no downside risk, well, how much can I put in there? So that's my personal thing.
Mm-hmm. And so that type of policy is geared more at investment returns than death benefit, right?
It can be. Ideally, what we would want to do in a situation like that, as I mentioned earlier, is we want to design that policy so that we have the minimal face amount, the death benefit amount, and more going toward cash value. And the reason is the less death benefits you have, that's the less mortality and expense cost that you have to pay. So your money can work even better for you.
Right. And in that case, there's a certain minimal death benefit you have to program in there in order to qualify as life insurance effectively and get the benefits that come along with that, right?
Oh, there's plenty of regulations on the table for that. In fact, we can't write a life insurance policy if it doesn't fit all of these guidelines that the regulators set out to specify, how much death benefit versus the cash value can you grow. So you're not going to have $100,000 death benefit with $1 million cash value in there. That don't work.
Yeah, right. And then your death benefit dependent on age, right? Age is a big factor in that, and obviously you got to have clean health.
Well, clean health is okay. I think. What the underwriters are not looking, or what they're looking for, is anybody that has heart conditions or strokes, or recently, or cancer, or anything like that. But if you have high blood pressure, cholesterol issues, most of them is controlled by medication. That they don't even look at that twice. So yeah, it is an underwritten product. So, but you don't have to be a marathon runner. You just have to be, somewhat healthy. Because it is, they are underwriting, because as soon as they issue that policy, the very next day, they're on the hook for whatever that amount is.
Right. Of course. And you don't want to buy a lawsuit for sure. You don't want your heirs to buy a lawsuit, right?
That's true. That's true.
So you can select your death benefit on these policies within certain guidelines, right? I have that right?
That's exactly right. That's right. In fact, I have a situation today, a case where I'm working on where, we're trying to generate a package of cash so that when the husband and wife walks out on life, they're both 65 today. And when they walk out on life, they're going to be leaving about $2 million inside of qualified retirement accounts to their two children. So now you got $2 million that they're going to inherit 20 years from now, let's say. And then it's fully taxable to them. So what we're looking at is maybe buying a last to die life insurance policy that would pay the death benefit, the package of cash, if you will, that the children can use to pay the taxes on the inheritance that they get. So that's quite interesting. And since I'm even bringing that up, I want to say one other thing, and that is There's another strategy that we have used in the past where for someone that's charitably inclined or has a charitable motive in their planning, how about if we take, for example, I could show someone how to take a $500,000 IRA and turn it into $1 million tax-free. Half of that goes to their beneficiaries. The other half goes to a charity. So again, there's some pretty cool things you can do with life insurance, but it all starts with a plan, and that plan starts with a discussion.
All right. So obviously there's nothing that, there's no cookie cutter stuff here, right? So,
not at all. That's right.
all right. Well, I think you've given us a lot to chew over here, Jim. If people want to find out more about you, connect with you on the web. Obviously, we have jimsloan.com. That's JIMSOSLOAN.com. And how else do we connect with you?
Well, I think jimsloan.com has a lot of things out there in terms of interaction, which means they can click on a button, orange button, to schedule a 15-minute conversation with me, and I can answer any questions that they may have. They can also click another orange button and download my book for free. That's going to give them some valuable information. And then lastly, very important for boomers that are listening, you can take 10 minutes. There's another orange button. It's called Retirement Analyzer. Just click that button, and in 10, 12 minutes from the comfort of your own home, you can run your own basic financial analysis to see if you're going to run out of money. And that would be a good starting point for us to have a conversation.
All right. Excellent. Well, we appreciate you coming on. Got a question for Jim? Just send us an email to kl@kerrylutz.com, and we will make sure it gets answered. And while you're at it, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Sign up for your free newsletter. Jim, appreciate you coming on. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.